The following story has been brought to you by StoriesToInspire.org.
Said over his story to his family that he once had a story with his stapler smacked a kid in the face that became wild next to the stapler. It disturbed him. So when the kid came home and he told his father that the stapler whacked him. So today, what would some father do? Hey, father, we're going to sue him, call the police, we're going to call children's service on him, child abuse, maybe write a letter to the Ami, or to Bina, or to Mishpacha. What kind of hanhag is that of a gadol? But that father was a little smarter. And what that father did, he got petrified. He became overwhelmed with fear and trepidation. He was convinced that if the stapler thought it proper, that is to give his kid a patch, he was able to see Baruch HaKodesh, the inside of this kid, and that he could see he's rotten on the inside, and who knows whether he has any future at all. And the father became mamish tzebrach. When Reb Chaim saw the great pain of the father, Reb Chaim decided he has to peace. He has to calm down. So he called over the man. He said, let me tell you a story, he said. Let me tell you a story that happened with me when I was a child. One time, when I was a child, and he was a child, he decided to act like a child. So what did he decide to do? Decided to throw racks at the window. Racks at the window. No, it wasn't stam any window. It was the window to the room where my uncle, the Chazon Ish, was sitting and learning. And in that moment, that time when I was throwing the racks at the window, he was mamish harving and learning. And the stones disturbed the Chazon Ish. No, so what did the Chazon Ish do? He came out of his room, went out of the house, walked over to little Chaimke, and he whacked him in the face. Bite the child abuse. No. Now, Chazon Ish's, Chaim's mother, who was the sister of the Chazon Ish, saw what happened. And the Chazon Ish turned to her and said as follows: you should know, all my life, I never laid a hand on a kid. This is the first time I'm hitting a kid. No, when she heard that, my mother became destroyed. Her world collapsed. She thought if the Chazon Ish went out of his Geder's norm and he gave my kid a patch, he must definitely be some ruined kid. But Reb Chaim said, if I was Zeicha to grow in Torah and steig, I hang it, I connect it to that patch that I was Zeicha to get from the Chazon Ish uncle. Don't worry, he told the father of this young boy. Your son will yet grow up to be a big Talmud Chacham. And Taka, time went by, this young man grew up to be a Talmud Chacham Muflik. On the same note, I'll tell you a story that I had. Shavuos morning, my father was not in shul. Not because he slept in, but because he already davened already. My father would stay up all night I was a little kid. So my father came home after davening. He went to rest. The davening, he and my brother went on our own. Now, sitting in shul without a father, I was not exactly the kid that when they told him to sit, I said, okay. I used to say, sit how? Sit like this, sit like that, sit like this. I could come up with many ways of how to sit. Sit on the ceiling, maybe. Kitzer, we sat right behind my grandfather. Grandfather sat in the front seat, the first bench. And me and my brother sat right behind him. And I was behaving like kids behave in shul. Practicing the sitting with my brother. Suddenly, my grandfather took his hand and he took a sidewinder. He flipped around and whacked me right across the face. What happened after that? I don't know. My father wasn't there, so my father couldn't come up with any ideas, but Maisa, that's what happened. I always remembered that patch. I remembered, don't mess with Zadie. That's what I remembered. The kids, sir, decades went by. Decades. And one day I came to New York with my family to visit my family. And I decided I'd like to go see my Zadie. Whenever I wanted to go see my Zadie, I would make a phone call. And when I said, Zadie, when could I come over with my family to see the Zayda? And he would give me a very limited amount of minutes. You didn't come late, you didn't come early, you came just on time. And he said to me, Avu bistu, where are you now? I said, I'm at home. By your parents? I said, yes. He said, will you be there for the next 20 to 30 minutes? I said, yeah, unless I'm planning to come to you. He said, are your parents home? I said, yes. Okay. I'll be there shortly. I thought this was the craziest thing. I never, ever heard my Zayda should come to visit me. I never heard him come to our house. I remember one time, made a student say, Dov, my father, he showed up, which was a shock to me. And it was such a shock, I even remember what he spoke. And 20 minutes later, he had a walk. It was a walk from his house to my house. And he walked to the house, knocks on the door. I go to the front of the house, I open the front door. Steps in right to the foyer, right in the front. And he says, are your parents here? I said, yes. He says, could you call them? Okay. So I got my father, I got my mother, all three standing in the front room. I says to me, 28 years ago, I gave you a patch. And I'm very sorry. I didn't have a right to give you a patch. And I want you to be meichel me. I'm asking you, can you be meichel me? So, I still thought I was a little funny, you know. So I said, I can't be meichel you. She said, looked at me, eyes big, wide like this. I said, Zayda, because you only hit me once. If you would have hit me twice, I would have straightened out. So I thought it was funny. But my Zayda wasn't in the mood for any jokes. So he didn't smile. Most serious face, he says, Dom Yiddish. It's a very serious matter. This is not a matter to make latzonos about. He said, are you meichel me? I said, say out loud, your parents are my Eidim. He said, machalach, machalach, machalach. Thank you very much, he said. And he walked out, he went back home. I guess for Reb Chaim, one patch from the Chazon Ish did the trick. But not everybody's the Chazon Ish, and not everybody's Reb Chaim. But you have to know that if from a patch from the Chazon Ish and a patch from the Stipler came out good things, somebody who gets a patch from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he could definitely expect very good things. Every time you have Yisurim, that Yisurim is equivalent to a patch from Hashem. And a patch from Hashem, you want to save, you want to value, you want to keep it, and you want to live off it.
Come again. Bring a friend. StoriesToInspire.org